Appleknocker Radio.
But and so another you were talking about the Finnish national epic, and you also earlier you briefly mentioned the Black Bible, which is also kind of this Finnish esoteric work that is very prominent in the Finnish culture, to my understanding. Could you talk a little bit about that? And specifically, you've mentioned that it gets kind of a bad rap, maybe just starting with the name, that the name makes it seem like it's much darker than it is. So could you just talk a little bit about what the book actually is like and what its background is?
Sure. The claim goes that this book, 6th and the 7th book of Moses, or in Finnish, Musta Raamattu, the Black Bible, that it would have been, that the book would have been those parts, the 6th and 7th book of Moses, that they would have been originally in the Christian Bible, and that they would have been removed there. And that's a kind of this kind of hidden occult stuff that has been supposedly removed from the Bible. Well, that's a beautiful story, but apparently that grimoire, this book, was composed much later. It was, I think, the first time published in Germany by this one occult bookseller and publisher. I don't remember his name right now, but it's there in our book. Mentioned, it was published, I think, in the 19th century. And it was a fascinating work during that time. And of course, it became translated to other languages. And the first Finnish edition, I think, was published 1902 by American Finnish people. And for some reason, they decided to call it in Finnish Musta Raamattu, subtitle Mooseksen 6. ja 7. kirja, the 6th and the 7th book of Moses. Of course, that sounds much more interesting. I guess it sells better. I would have done the same probably. So I guess that's probably the reason when it comes to the contents, there is not really anything or of course it depends on your definition of black magic. What is black magic? But there's just some basically kind of Kabbalistic spells for finding the treasure and summoning this and this kind of elementals. And it's when it comes to the contents, it's actually a pretty boring book, and it's the name gives much more sinister kind of aura to it, what it really is. But it's been popping up in Finnish history here and there. Of course, in the very early last century when it was published, it started to circulate. Then there was the Tattarisuo case when it became to everybody's lips, and of course got super infamous name to it, understandably, with this kind of case. And Pekka Ervast also warned about the book, and Pekka Siiton, this neo-Nazi worshipping the devil to honor God in the 70s and 80s, 90s. He sold copies of that book too, and it's been there throughout all these decades, and everybody knows it. It has a certain kind of special aura in Finland. It's the most known grimoire, this kind of occult book in Finland for sure. That I think everybody knows that book by name, and people still buy it. Surprisingly, the new editions of the book are printed every now and then, a very nice editions. But when it comes to how seriously people take it or so, nowadays it's like a curiosity. I don't know anybody, have not heard anybody for decades who would have thought of it seriously. It just had this aura and this history with it, probably starting from the Tattarisuo case. And so if you're interested in occultism, esotericism, and you live here, it's part of your education. You need to read the book, or if not, buy it. But it's not a Finnish work. It was probably written by this German guy who published the first edition. I think it was in the 19th century. Interestingly enough, this Pekka Siiton, who I mentioned, he mentioned that that Kalevala, our national epic, which has, of course, like stories about the beginning of the world, how it was mythically born, and there are all these kind of magical themes and elements and so forth. So siitä on se, that Kalevala, our national epic, that it's like the Black Bible of Finland and Finnish people, and as such, it's a way better like a sorcery book to us than this Musta Raamattu. And it's interesting how the reputation of this book has stayed here. I think that it was still like in the 1990s or so, it had so bad reputation that some libraries in Finland kind of declined to take it to their shelves, so that youth wouldn't be badly influenced or something like that. Really odd stuff.
It kind of reminds me of the Necronomicon here, which is supposed to be passed off as this real translation of an ancient grimoire, and people traced it back to some people in the 70s. So it kind of reminds me of that, just a little bit older, kind of like same story but older.
Right. Yeah, that's a good comparison. Like a Necronomicon had a similar kind of feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So